I kind of envisioned a spider-like creature, and that is their web. So they feel you when you drop in, and then they come and get you.
We're going for the throat here. That's good.
That's intense, yeah.
Welcome to the StarShip Writers Room, a podcast that gives you an up-close look at the creation of the StarShip universe.
We talk new characters, hash out plot points, and imagine possibilities that are truly out of this world.
And which you might see featured in the StarShip NFT game,
a play-to-earn cryptocurrency game set in outer space.
I'm Melanie, the StarShip lore champion, joined by my co-host and fellow StarShip lore creator,
Spazzitron of CryptoPhoenix.org.
We have StarShip CEO Matt Albright joining us today, as well as Shooty from the Writers Room, who you'll remember from episode 1. Welcome, everybody. It's good to see you guys.
Hello, good morning. Well, good morning for me.
Good morning.
And good afternoon for me. So we wanted to start with something that inspired one of us this week, especially as it might spark some ideas for the StarShip lore. And Shooty has something to kick us off with.
Yeah. So if you remember in episode 1, I talked about an inspiring moment and went into this long tangent about a client I worked with and psychic thoughts. So this week is a little bit more fun. I've been busting out my old emulator for Nintendo, Sega Genesis, and Super Nintendo, and playing an old Sega classic, Buck Rogers' Countdown to Doomsday. It's a good old like space and space pirates and the good side rebel forces fighting against the mutant Mars forces, and it's just got real funky music, and it's like a tactics, kind of like you move your people around and choose your character class. And I don't know, I don't know exactly where we're going with the in-depth nature of RPG or weapons and different character classes. But it's a good old romp in some good old fashioned sci-fi. It was 1991 video game, I believe. So good old fashioned MIDI file music and very inspiring.
Very fun. Does this mean that there might be some conflict and weapons on the grassland planet?
Well, maybe not the grassland planet specifically, but the idea that one or multiple of these planets, there's a, and without making it in any way topical, this is sort of a recurring theme in lots of space adventures. But our heroes find a planet and there's a rebel insurgent camp, and they have to sort of pick a side. And again, I know that can feel a little bit topical right now, but it's just sci-fi writing. So they have to help the insurgents kind of come to their own, and they build a bond, which perhaps later gets returned. Like, you helped us fight in this war, so and I mean, there's Lord of the Rings, the tribe, the entire Tolkien lore is trying to download itself into my brain at the same time now. But just that was kind of my inspiration, was thinking about filling out character classes and weapon types and thoughts for how a game might play out. You brought up the grasslands planets, and I did think of like the grasslands planets, people being a lot about music and communication, and wouldn't it be fun if Lord Albright or even Grandpa or whoever is coming along for this adventure to the grassland planets, like when they first meet this tribe, this is why I thought Grandpa, maybe, I don't know him personally quite yet, but what if they gave a guitar or a harmonica or some very like earthling instrument to this tribe, and it's just like this amazing sacred gesture to them because it's an instrument they could never replicate, and that kind of thing is so sacred to them that it's it builds a really important bond that now they gave him an acoustic guitar, you know.
I like that. I like that a lot. See, I had because I do write poetry and I wanted to integrate it, so I kind of stuck Grandpa with the role of this Ronin who kind of sings sometimes. But I could totally see that. I hadn't even made that connection that the grasslands, at least the specific grasslands planet, yeah, that would be mind blowing to people that kind of like revere and worship music.
Right on. So sorry, that was just a little snippet of inspiration as well.
Yes, very nice. So we are going to brainstorm another planet today. Which one would you guys like to brainstorm?
Before we go hard into one, I had just sort of a thought this morning. It could be on a different grassland planet, or it could even be maybe a different swamp planet. Sort of this idea, right, where because like right now, so you have environmental concerns because we've taken too much out of the planet. But what if there was a planet that was like hostile, right, and the people on it had survived strictly by like dominating that was like they chop down a tree, it grows back the next day. Like, so to have a stable place, they've had to basically destroy nature. And so that you could have a current dynamic, but it's totally on its head. Like there's hippies that are like, oh, always burn a tree, always, don't make sure you, sort of it could be it could be like a funny thing, like, oh no, take that filter off. We want to make sure we get as much smoke in the air as possible. Like, because like they're just from a planet that's the nature is so resilient and so aggressive that they've survived by just basically just being wanton destruction of everything, and that's the only way they've been able to survive. So like a society that sort of venerates destruction and really where that's like a core ethic. It could even be like religions where they're like, oh, whatever they worship is like just like a fire god of some sort or something like that. It would be. I
really like that.
So it's a little half-baked.
That's hilarious.
I think it would be really fun as a reader, as a like getting engaged in, what if what if it's your job to throw trash down the streets because somehow it, figuratively speaking, right?
Yeah. And like, maybe like there's oil reserves, but they keep overflowing. So it's like, quick, we have to make something that burns even more oil as fast as possible because it keeps overflowing and flooding the land. And, it could just be like that's their problem, is not consuming enough. And it could be fun. It could just be tongue in cheek and funny. It could be kind of light.
Yeah. I love it.
I love that. That's awesome. I like that idea.
I like that a lot.
And you have a sort of a pig-like species that you've got a couple notes jotted down for. So not to be too on the nose, like it could be a pig-like species, or it could be completely different.
Yeah, I could see that, because that could be kind of comical. Like, quick, we have to eat more food. The trees are falling over because the fruit's growing too fast. It could be a lot of fun with that.
Right.
So which kind of planet do you see this story playing out?
I hadn't really thought of it. Again, this just sort of popped in my head like, an hour ago, and I haven't really fleshed it out too much. I just thought it would be funny.
Yes. Yeah, that would be funny. Yes. All right. Well, I pose you all a question again. Which planet would you like to brainstorm today?
My vote is for Gas Planet. I like what we're doing. I like where we're headed thinking about it, but I'm open to also exploring magma if the yays have it.
Let's do the Gas Planet, because it's sort of like, it's going to be hard to, I feel like that's going to be more difficult. So let's eat the biggest frog first, so they say.
Gas Planet has my vote as well.
Awesome.
And I for you listening to this, I also am starting to really appreciate, this is our third writer's room And I'm starting to appreciate getting into the different voices that we each have, the three of us. Tron, you like to create a specific world with a specific, literature or story beats behind it. And I love the attention to science, Earth-based science that you're bringing to the table. And recognizing, for me, I like to create fantastic creatures and concepts because of my background with video games, heavy background with video games. I like to create, like, how would this world play as a game? So there's that aspect. And Melanie, some of the out there stuff that you're able to put together cohesively, like the backstory of Metallic and the backstory of what a paradise planet could be, is really fantastical. I love it. So I just wanted to say, like, I really like the three very different voices and our progress in working together. There's no conflict, there's no tension. It's just like we're all kind of saying different aspects of the same concept, which is just creation at this point.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I feel like we make a really good team. We all complement each other really nicely.
Yeah, it's definitely a good mix, and also it helps all these little submissions that we're getting in. It helps a lot as well.
Totally.
Oh yeah, thank you. If you're hearing this part of the video, jot something down. A little knickknack that some character likes to carry, a relic of their past, or a little creature, something cute, something terrifying. One paragraph of one little snippet of story that if you saw it featured at some point in the game, you would just go nuts and love that. Put down some comments, but more importantly, the email address that Melanie is linking. Send something on over.
Yes, definitely. Even if you see an article or something that just you think might kind of, for example, for the gas planet, I saw an article that is what would happen if humans tried landing on Jupiter. And that really inspired me for the gas planet. So if you see something like that, or it could be something completely different, yeah, definitely send it over.
Well, all right. Where are we going to start with gas planets, or do we have any more little intros first?
I think we should dive right in.
So I was thinking about something that Shooty had said. I had to kind of broaden my thought pattern here of, I guess it is theoretically possible that there could be life that does not require oxygen. And I think that's what we're going to look at in as strange as something as strange as a gas planet. Maybe something that feeds off of radiation, maybe something that, maybe something like more amorphous, right? Because there's not an actual land mass per se until you get 90% of the way into the planet. So yeah, maybe things that just kind of float and swim like jellyfish through the I would say through the atmosphere, but the atmosphere is the planet because it's a gas planet. So either that or focusing on a moon, because that would be interesting as well, because you have stuff like Europa, which is one of Jupiter's moons. And that is interesting because it actually gets most of the surface light that it gets is from Jupiter itself, not the sun. So you'd have a pretty bright night, but the day you'd be kind of getting hit from both sides from the sun as well as Jupiter, which is why they think that there might be actually water and some sort of microbial life on Europa. I don't know. That's just kind of what's been bouncing around my head.
Yeah. What if there's little pockets of fusion from the gas planet that maybe combine to create different colors? So the people who live on this moon are quite used to certain patterns of colors, or certain that big orange flash just hit. That means there's going to be an earthquake, because that's usually what happens when that gas pocket explodes or something.
That would be cool. It would also be cool as far as concept art goes, because the sky's the limit. You could have just like an indigo sky or a fuchsia sky, or you could, it's, I guess that's why it was so hard for me to think about, because it's so open-ended. But yeah, sky's the limit. That would be cool.
Totally.
And for a slightly more like, generalized gas planet, just like you said about what type of creature would live there, is it amorphous? Does it not require oxygen? Does it float around or swim around? One thing I want to say, like officially on the record, we've got it in our notes. I would love to see Carlos's Firebird featured or floating around every time I mine a gas planet. We get to see that beautiful Firebird sprawled across the top of the web browser, and that would be, you're in a starship, you're flying, you're approaching the gas planet, huge Firebird just coasts by minding its own business.
I like it.
And what if there were creatures that sort of had a membrane, so they're almost like balloons that can, maybe they're like a safe haven for other creatures. How like the little brown sharks attach themselves to the bottoms of the bigger whales and predators to kind of feed off of them. So you have these like floating balls that are sort of a safe haven for teeny tiny little subspecies or something.
Yes.
That's fun. I like that.
Yeah, I see the gas planet as like a prison. And I like the idea of the moon being what's primarily occupied, but if you mess up on the moon, you get banished to the gas planet. And I do like the idea of there also being creatures on the planet itself. And I see them being, creatures that can survive and thrive in the harshest environments.
Definitely.
I like that. Like a little, it'd be like really close, at least like close to the surface of the gas planet. So like if they escape, they just get slurped down into the gravity.
Yeah, so that's what inspired me from that article about being on Jupiter, is it basically said that the gas becomes so dense that it reminded me of like a trampoline where, it's got a buoyancy to it. So it like shoots you back up, but the gravity is so strong that it's like pulls you back down. And it described that effect as if like, you were a yo-yo. So you just yo-yo until you finally reach equilibrium and you're just suspended and stuck in this like dense gas. So I thought that could, and then as you guys were talking earlier, I kind of envisioned a spider-like creature. And that is their web. So they feel you when you drop in, and then they come and get you.
We're going for the throat here. That's good.
That's intense, yeah.
So I love I love so many things. When you brought up the gas, when you shared it with us a few days ago, that the concept of an oubliette, that you have created, that the gas planets can be used as a prison. And so then I saw you write that note in our shared site, and I'm like, there it is. Definitely. At least this one gas planet that we encounter, when we're thinking more specifically in that way. I love the idea of the gas planet as an oubliette. The idea of a spider web that's not on a swamp. Oh my God, terrifying. Like when we write this story, of course, we want emotional story beats to be included, and the gaslands, the grasslands planet would be, the idyllic and a little more peaceful moment, or the paradise planet, this place of healing and rejuvenation. And of course, there would have to be like what's the word I'm looking for? Yeah, anyway, not psychoactively, but like very intense moments in the story that you're like, I don't want to be in this part of the story anymore.
Oh, like psychological thriller type of
Thank you, psychological. Like psychoactive. whatever.
Yeah, I kind of see what you're saying. Like, and I mean, it's a spider, but this would be like the most colossal, like almost like an eldritch abomination, sort of a, this thing can like eat planets. So like this giant thing.
Oh,
yes. Like, what would this spider look like? Think of. I mean, it doesn't even have to be spider. I just said spider because of like that web. Like it senses when it's captured something. But what would this creature look like?
Oh,
we
tubes
could even
and
be
tentacles,
yeah,
thin membranes. Oh,
you could even be a little bit vague and spooky, like what's that author, the guy that did Call of Cthulhu? Like he describes it a little bit, but then he says, there's very limited records because anything that sees it is driven mad or dies.
Yes.
Oh,
Bird box it.
Tron, I love that.
Yeah.
I am so glad you're on the team for that moment. You never get a full look at it, and it becomes more terrifying because of that. Like the clouds that surround what it actually is, all you see are these big spider-like appendages, and so we call it a spider, but it doesn't even resemble. We don't know what it resembles.
Maybe it's not even like maybe it's kind of maybe it's some kind of gas form itself. Like maybe it's not even fully physical.
I am into this one creature. It's got under my skin.
You could, the sky's the limit. Like you could have like somebody happen to go by the gas planet and just catch a glimpse of it, and then flash forward, it's 6 months later and they're getting out of like some sort of like, coma or whatever. And they're like, they don't remember what happened. Just like the sight of it, just like they felt their sanity start to slip just by glimpsing it.
Yes.
And maybe they have a familiar scar on the side of their neck we know you've been in contact with that one creature. Like your skin is now kind of a little bit purple or something.
Yeah, just something like the mark of the people that have seen this thing.
That's sort of cool. a Doctor Who, the silence. The people who they don't know they've seen it, but some part of them knows they've seen it.
I haven't seen that in forever. Yes, I remember that vaguely.
So as I'm coming up with ideas for different planets, it's also sort of, as I mentioned, a little bit integrated with like potential, just throwing it out there, like NFT ideas and how could we have this game play out. And I've sort of presented the idea among us, like what if there were planet variations? So, one planet NFT that we have, a gas planet, is when it's drawn or airdropped, it's like, this is a gas planet. And then another one is like, this is the moon of a gas planet, or, that idea of how we use the story to integrate into gamifying it. But as far as what we want to talk about specifically, like creating a specific world, a specific event or race, on one gas planet, I want to explore the moon prison a little bit. What do we think about that?
Well, somebody somebody will have to go through and credit this person, but somebody was talking about like, I know we all a lot of people have a libertarian streak and like the idea of meritocracy, but what if that was flipped to its extreme, right? Like you weren't just in prison for breaking a law, you were in prison for performing less than excellent. Like what if it was something like that? So like everyone was just in fear because it was like
an A-.
You got a what?
You get an A-.
Yeah, you get you get an A-, but something like that. So you can, because if it's just criminals getting sent there, like actual bad people, you're not going to feel too bad when they get gobbled up by the spider. You want to like feel a little bit of sympathy, like if somebody's crime was like they were late to work one day or something.
Yeah, I was thinking about how the moon, like, I don't know if they worship this beast that lives on the gas planet, but I imagine that they offer it sacrifices, and maybe that's because they think that will protect itself, but they have a steady stream of their planets or the moon's life forms going to kind of keep this beast satiated, at least in their minds. So I like
So,
this
like-
idea where, because it reminds me of in Game of Thrones when the guy beyond the wall was like offering his sons to the Night King. So it's like, obviously we don't want babies to be offered. So, but that gives creates that emotional response of how horrible this is. And so I like this idea of like that it's based on this, this underperformance that can be seen as absolutely ridiculous.
And to resolve or to, because there's so far, I don't think any of us have really written anything tragic. We could, someone from StarShip goes there and says, right, this is super messed up that you're doing this. And they like put a stop to them sacrificing. And then as he is flying away, because they didn't sacrifice, this thing could just, jump out of the planet and just gobble up the moon and just swallow it back into the planet.
There we go.
Like it could be like, and that would be like a super crazy moral conundrum to present. It's like, yeah, they were doing something messed up, but that was the only thing it was literally their only option. And then someone with modern sensibilities would like put the kibosh on it, and then they all met their doom because of that.
Right,
Wow.
like Sarlacc pit and Jabba the Hutt. Like, what if the rebel forces like threw some bombs down the Sarlacc pit, pissed it off, and it ate the entire the entire floating platform.
Yeah, that was just one of its like 10,000 mouths or something.
There you go. I like it. I like you're again to go with the story beats that we're trying to kind of precipitate. I like the idea of let's build in some tragedy.
Yeah, I wanted to keep the first story arc as like a hour-long read, short, kind of sugary, just to kind of introduce characters. But like the idea is to like, as we go in, to get more complex, to get more like once we've reeled people into like the characters, then people will want to see stuff with more depth than just the damsel in distress sort of situation.
Absolutely. And the more we know now, the less that it feels like, 2 years from now that we're like, okay, they ran out of ideas. They're making it up as they go.
Yeah, definitely.
So coming back to the moon, what do we see when we think of the geography and the maybe landmarks, or what kind of creatures do we see on this moon?
Well, we take it for granted when we think of a gas planet, we're thinking of something massive because we relate it to Jupiter. So the moon's being very small in proportion to the gas planet. Maybe that's a given. Maybe we've all got that same mental image, or maybe not. And then also, if there is a race or multiple races that exist, like sentient beings, dominant races that exist on the moons, maybe they have gas packs, ability to travel and mine, like little mining vessels or ships that go to the gas planet and back. So, maybe there's a scene, a lot of miners and kind of like rough, smog covered people bouncing around.
For the sentient race, that's like offering sacrifices on whatever specific moon, on whatever specific planet we go with, to kind of foreshadow that they're not evil, they're just acting out of fear. They could be drawn to be sort of rabbit-like. Like they can bounce between two legs and four legs.
Species.
Yeah, just timid. Everyone's scared. Everyone's because they know that this thing could just like snap them out of existence. And maybe they have some sort of ability that allows them to see this being snap up the sacrifices and not be completely driven crazy by it, but they kind of keep to themselves because they're like, okay, now we have to keep this thing running so we can all survive. But yeah, I kind of like. I mean, a rabbit's sort of like considered, like a super timid animal. So I think it would be kind of cool to lean on that. It would kind of fall in line with people's preconceived thoughts on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or even like a deer.
A deer works too. There's a deer, a rabbit, anything like a weasel, something like that people kind of associate with being like a timid thing.
Yeah.
So
I like deer because they're kind of, I feel, this might be wrong, but I feel like they're associated with like gentle, like kind of loving. So it could be the visitors to the planet kind of see these creatures and they think, oh, it's so peaceful here. And then they realize like what is being done. And they're just absolutely horrified because it's completely the opposite of their expectation of these gentle creatures.
I'm from Michigan, so we got the stag is sort of revered over here as like the ultra manly animal. We can hammer that out later.
With the species that like as an Earth person watching or experiencing this fantasy game or fantasy story, it could be a species like a prey species, like a mouse or a rabbit or a deer. But when we meet them, they're not acting like that. They're acting like miners and soldiers and blacksmiths, and like they're acting really gruff. But so there's this part of the viewer or the reader that knows in the back of their mind, this is a timid species. I'm waiting for them to show their true colors. So when Lord Albright or Faye or whoever is starting to get to know the species, there's something below the surface that we're just waiting for that beat to drop, that beat where they act like rabbits or they act like deer, where they're like, and they lose their stuff and they all start scattering, which previously, like, they're blacksmiths, they're hardy people. They have this gruff, violent sort of like, not tyrannical, but whatever, political, social structure. And then suddenly there's a moment where like they all just lose their heads and start scattering, and showing their true colors, kind of thing.
Yeah, I think this would definitely be a better, because I kind of picture Faye as being like more morally neutral. Like she might say, hey, why are they sacrificing people? Like she might want to get to the bottom of it. Where I have Matt as starting off as a bit unyielding, not into like gray zone things until this incident happens, which could cause like character development after he accidentally causes a genocide, and that could kind of evolve his character somewhat.
Wait, what happened?
Wait, what?
I caused a genocide?
What do you want me to do?
No, I know. I just have to say something a little bit edgy, and he'll come right back in.
I was letting you guys rock it there. You guys were flowing.
This is good. Yeah, I like that. And then suddenly, Lord Albright, genocide.
Accidental genocide.
We had to make sure he was paying attention.
So I heard that Albright's going to sing karaoke for the last 15 minutes.
I wouldn't put you guys through that. We're already having a tough time in the markets, and I don't think that's going to help.
Never know. Not with that attitude, it won't.
A song about how we continually lose our ship rarities. Right. Sorry to bring that up. Just kidding.
Well, that's why I just buy double so that it never downgrades.
Yes.
There you go.
So, Melanie, what did we decide? Are we want to touch on the physics a little bit? Do we want to try and maybe explore not just the dominant species, but maybe one or two more monsters or just simple animals? Maybe there's, how Disney likes to always throw in a cutesy little helper animal. Maybe this could be the opportunity for, and we don't have to do it, like, obviously, but, Faye finds I found this on the moon of a gas planet, this little guy stays tucked in my shoulder now, kind of thing.
The chemist already has a little animal.
Oh, great. All right, we're there.
Yeah, we're check. A little it's a little flying lizard guy.
That's perfect. Everybody loves those. I mean, like, even the people who pretend to hate them love, what was it, BB-88, from maybe maybe not specifically that one for some people, but
even the cynical people, like, you can't not look at it because they're so good at making it look adorable.
And I did have an idea in my ocean planet. If we're talking about like variations on planets, I had an idea for an archipelago where you could visit that is full of evolutionary, like, little fantastical beasts, and so it could be this fun idea where you pick up a companion or you evolve. And I don't mean getting into the way overdone Pokemon style thing. I just mean, a fun little NFT that's like, I picked this little lizard up off of an archipelago on one of my ocean planets, or something. But anyway, that's a tangent.
Well, no, that's definitely cool because I think that in future games, creatures and stuff are going to be important to not say too much. I know if I say too much, Albright will perma-mute me, so I gotta watch it now.
Let's leave the leaks for me, I guess.
There we go. What do we think about weaponry or structure on this planet, as far as like, what do the buildings have to look like? What would a do we need to have, if there's gas-like fusion creating light and potentially heat all over the place in random pockets, what do the buildings look like that these people live, or what kind of weaponry or just tools do they use? I know that's sort of an art design territory a little bit, but for a couple minutes we could think about that. Dome-shaped roofs that deflect incoming, like, not solar flares, but gas flares or something. I don't know.
With all the light and stuff, I'm thinking that too, like a lot of glass, a lot of mirrors, a lot of stuff, because they wouldn't really have a purpose for making, except for very rare, like, technical things. They wouldn't really need light, like artificial light, that much.
No. And it would almost be like, well, from my human perception, it would almost be like they would need something to create darkness, to get
sunglasses.
Yeah, sunglasses. Everybody's got some cool shades. They're the Elton Johns of the universe.
Sleep chambers, or a sleep room, or sleep curtains, just one little moment of one little scene where the people invite Faye into their hovel and they're like, go back to the sleep room, and Faye draws the curtain and she has the first sleep she's had in 2 days or something.
Yeah, she's like, how am I gonna get any sleep on this planet? It reminds me of like the polls, like, I kind of want to look into if they do anything over the summer to to just help them sleep.
Do you think there would be a dome on a gas planet, or would it be more like a floating piece of land or a balloon or something?
We're talking about like on the moon. I think we're talking about just like how the architecture on the moons of the gas planet will look.
Oh, okay. Okay.
I've thought about in my ocean planet, like I think I brought this up in the episode 1 Lorecast, but like the idea of a kingdom floating on a giant turtle, and that lends itself really well, like both in possibly the desert planet, a big floating city that kind of rides on a beast that's in the sand. But that, the gas planet lends itself easily to that too. Just like Matt said, what if there's a giant bubble with a city in it?
I like that. Yeah.
I like that a lot.
I imagine like the people who actually physically bring the the captives, those who will be sacrificed, have some kind of mechanism to actually, take them to the planet. And maybe this is their kind of station on the planet. That's like, it has to stay above a certain level so that it itself doesn't get sucked down by the gravitational force. And they like, it's like walking the plank, they shoot you out.
I'm also thinking that a lot of the gas planets, as well as the was it dust, sand planet, desert planet, whatever it is, because these are I mean, outside of the ones that are going to be in the story, these are going to be like your generally more hostile places. So I'm thinking a lot of these gas planets might have just like, you know, people escaping or like pirates or something just lurking just deep enough inside the atmosphere where they can't be picked up by radar or anything like that. So I think we could, if we want to do space pirates, because everyone likes space pirates.
Yeah,
I'm thinking the gas planets and the dust planets are going to be where they're lurking because it's so inhospitable. You'd be crazy to go in there after them.
You know, I really like, you know, maybe it's like it's intentional at this point, but I've heard you say dust planet instead of desert like several times. And I really like the idea of exploring that some of these are like desert planets with sand and some of these are desert planets with like dust, you know, and to get back to the gas planet, so my favorite game of all time, here's a fun little bit of trivia. We might, you know, play a trivia game someday down the line. What is Shooty's #1 favorite video game ever? Chrono Trigger, old Super Nintendo game. And toward the end of the game, you encounter a giant, like the remains of a city or whatever that's floating on a giant rock that is chained to the planet. But so what about the idea of to reinforce the prison or the jail, a giant chain that is like a visual giant chain going from the moon to the gas planet. So it's like we are also prisoners of this gas planet. Like the moon is visually a prisoner of the gas planet in a way.
I seriously was thinking about that.
That's really cool.
I can't believe that you like Chrono Trigger. I just started playing that game like 7 days ago again. So
it's
anytime
the
I get
best
a little
game ever
downtime,
written.
yeah, it's such a good game. But yeah, they have it for mobile too. So check that out.
Funnily enough, for a birthday a couple of years ago, my parents actually found the little insert that they came with. It was like a little fold-out poster, and they found that for me to frame it and put up eventually. So from the OG SNES cartridge.
Hell
So
yeah!
You played it too, then, right?
Yeah, big fan.
Love it. That's awesome. We got a good team here. This is the exact team we need making our video game.
Yes, excellent.
Well, the thing that stood out to me was that, it feels like there was some kind of, you know, metaphysical connection with you guys in this game, with Matt just picking it up again. But for me, it was that I was literally just thinking of this, that the moon and the planet were somehow connected. Like the moon was like tethered to the planet. And I imagine it kind of like that cellular being that we were talking about before, where, you know, it's whatever that skin is made out of that kind of serves as a tube. So maybe that's what they travel down to the planet to offer their sacrifices in. And but it also means that they themselves are prisoners of the planet. I like that idea a lot.
I love it.
All right. Well, I know Shooty's got to dash off soon. Is there any last remarks you want to make before you do?
We have a big, like sort of larger group, you know, who we are, we're the writing team, writing the lore. At this stage, we're sort of coming up with a specific story as Tron said, to kind of engage and draw in with a fun adventure. But I imagine very soon we're going to start to expand into creating a universe, you know, intricate natures with the worlds and the creatures and the races, big and small. Part of what I really love is Jim Henson landscapes and world creating scapes. You know, when in the third Harry Potter movie, when they started adopting a little more of a Jim Henson style, where in the foreground you saw these little creatures scurrying around that are never featured again, you know, for the rest of the movies. And when you're watching Dark Crystal or Labyrinth, or even just like old school, like Fraggle Rock, we have this like little creatures running around, big creatures, and relationships between them happening sort of as the camera pans across, and I love the opportunity that we have to create all that, which is why I keep kind of doing a call to arms for people to submit to the lore. Because as I keep saying, like, on one hand, we are writing a specific story right now for an adventure, for a prologue, but also on the other hand, we're just getting started with a wild, expansive universe, and there is room for everybody to have a little knickknack if they want to. If you're in early at this point, throw something in the lore email for sure.
Yes, thank you so much.
I just want to say thanks, guys. I love the creativity here. I kind of just stepped back this episode because I wanted to just let you guys flow. You guys were in a groove, and I love it. And I think we're on the right track here.
Definitely feels like it.
Fantastic. Yes.
All right. Thank you guys so much. We will see you next time. Before we close out this episode of the StarShip Writers Room, we just want to give a quick shout out and thanks to Snazzy Bits, who submitted some ideas about the background story for the Swamp Planets, which we brainstormed in last week's episode. Snazzy Bits has proposed that the planet has safe zones, which are safe because of their large concentration of kyanite, which is deadly to the creatures of the Swamp Planet. And because those safe zones are being mined for their kyanite, they are actually disappearing. So this can explore a lot around climate change, around how we use resources or overuse them, and it's all around really interesting. So thank you so much, Snazzy Bits, for your excellent contribution. Keep them coming.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of StarShip Writers Room.
If you have an idea for the StarShip lore, we would love to hear it, and you might even get a shout out on the pod.
Simply send it to lore@deploystarship.com.
That's LORE@deploystarship.com.
We hope you have a stellar day,
and we'll see you next week.